jungle. And after some work with a colored pencil, I succeeded in making my first drawing. My drawing number 1. It looked like this. I showed my masterpiece to the grown-ups and asked them whether the drawing frightened them. But they answered, "Frightened? Why should anyone be frightened by a hat?" My drawing was not a picture of a hat. It was a picture of a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. But since the grown-ups were not able to understand it, I made another drawing. I drew the inside of the boa constrictor so that the grown-ups could see it clearly. They always need to have things explained. My drawing number 2 looked like this. The grown-ups' response this time was to advise me to lay aside my drawings of boa constrictors, whether from the inside or the outside, and devote myself instead to geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar. That is why, at the age of 6, I gave up what might have been a magnificent career as a painter. I had been disheartened by the failure of my drawing number 1 and my drawing number 2. Grown-ups never understand anything by themselves, and it is tiresome for children to be always and forever explaining things to them. So then I chose another profession and learned to pilot airplanes. I have flown a little over all parts of the world, and it is true that geography has been very useful to me. At a glance, I can distinguish China from Arizona. If one gets lost in the night, such knowledge is valuable. In the course of this life, I have had a great many encounters with a great many people who have been concerned with matters of consequence. I have lived a great deal among the grown-ups. I have seen them intimately, close at hand, and that has much improved my opinion of them. Whenever I met one of them who seemed to me at all clear-sighted, I tried the experiment of showing him my drawing number 1, which I have always kept. I would try to find out, if this was a person of true understanding. But whoever it was, he or she would always say, "That is a hat." Then I would never talk to that person about boa constrictors or primeval forests or stars. I would bring myself down to his level. I would talk to him about bridge and golf and politics and neckties. And the grown-up would be greatly pleased to have met such a sensible man. So I lived my life alone, without anyone that I could really talk to, until I had an accident with my plane in the desert of Sahara 6 years ago. Something was broken in my engine, and as I had with me neither a mechanic nor any passengers, I set myself to attempt the difficult repairs all alone. It was a question of life or death for me. I had scarcely enough drinking water to last a week. The first night then, I went to sleep on the sand, 1,000 miles from any human habitation. I was more isolated than a shipwrecked sailor on a raft in the middle of the ocean. Thus you can imagine my amazement at sunrise when I was awakened by an odd little voice. It said, "If you please, draw me a sheep." What? Draw me a sheep? I jumped to my feet, completely thunderstruck. I blinked my eyes hard. I looked carefully all around me, and I saw a most extraordinary small person who stood there examining me with great seriousness. Here you may see the best portrait that, later, I was able to make of him. But my drawing is certainly very much less charming than its model. That, however, is not my fault. The grown-ups discouraged me in my painter's career when I was 6 years old, and I never learned to draw anything except boas from the outside and boas from the inside. Now I stared at this sudden apparition with my eyes fairly starting out of my head in astonishment. Remember, I had crashed in the desert 1,000 miles from any inhabited region. And yet my little man seemed neither to be straying uncertainly among the sands, nor to be fainting from fatigue or hunger or thirst or fear. Nothing about him gave any suggestion of a child lost in the middle of the desert, 1,000 miles from any human habitation. When at last I was able to speak, I said to him, "But what are you doing here?" And in answer he repeated, very slowly, as if he was speaking of a matter of great consequence, "If you please, draw me a sheep." When a mystery is too overpowering, one dare not
What's
disobey.
up, guys? Doug Polk here, and today we're
Absurd
going
as
to
it
be
might seem to me, 1,000 miles from any human habitation and in danger of
we're going to be looking at the worst bad beat I've taken in my entire life. I don't think there's one worse than this. And I already know what's going to happen. There's going to be some guy in the comments that says, "But Doug, now you've ruined my video experience because you put the pot size in the thumbnail and I know that you lost the hand, so I can't fully..." If it wasn't a crazy bad beat, I wouldn't be making a video about it, because right now I make a YouTube video every 4 months. What do I do with the rest of my time? Well, I fill it with important things like answering Alan Kessler's questions about our monthly monster points format. I'm really just living the high life over here. Anyway, back to the poker. So I'm going to give you a little context to this hand because it's a bit of a strange one. So like every good hand that happens at the stream table, this happens once the cameras are off, so we don't have the actual stream footage of the hand itself. I don't know why this seems to happen every time we have a big game. The cameras shut off, and then all of a sudden, all of the big pots break out. I don't know, people kick back and go wild when those cameras turn off, but regardless, this one happens after the stream. So we are actually looking at security footage from the lodge to be able to piece together this hand. Another note about the footage, most of the tables at the lodge have a security camera right above it. However, the stream table is a little weird because we have to put all of our equipment in. So we don't have the standard angles where we can fully see everything that happened. We have a little bit of a side angle shot. However, I think the footage is pretty good, and it's definitely going to be clear enough for us to jump into another episode of Poker Hands. That's right, I just hit you with a little 2017 footage. Still good. Anyway, our hand begins with the players being dealt in. Now, to add a little context to this story, I had just gotten a full double up for about a $100,000 or $110,000 pot with pocket kings, where I 4-bet and ended up getting it in and won the pot to get the full double. So you can see I'm trying to collect some chips, and I'm trying to stack all of these chips that I just won. And this is where things already fly off the rails just a little bit. As the first cards are being dealt around the table, I actually take Boston Jimmy's card and put it into my cards. And then when the dealer comes back around and throws me my second card, realizes that I have 3 cards. At this point, a game of which card goes to Boston Jimmy begins. When I first saw this footage, I thought there was a chance that I had perhaps taken the wrong card, but after some excellent deductive work from our staff and some frame-by-frame freezing, we managed to realize that, in fact, the right card did make its way to Boston Jimmy. So, fate was not altered, which would be very important because every one of these cards is random, and thus it's extremely important that we get him the right card. That was a joke, by the way. Anyway, once we do figure out which card goes to Jimmy, I get my normal cards, and then I drop a chip off the table onto the floor and begin searching for where my chip is. Anyway, back to our hand from hell. We're playing 100, 100, 200 with a $100 ante, so this is a pretty big game, and players have some pretty deep stacks. The player to my right opens to $500, and I look down at the pocket jacks. I decide to slow play it and just call. I don't want to get too deep into the strategy weeds here, but with pocket jacks, you do want to 3-bet in this spot a decent amount of the time. However, calling is good too, and you want to mix it up pre-flop so that you're not very predictable. Now, back in the day, I would have told you it's because of some reasons or something, but now we just listen to what our robot overlords tell us, and we have no clue why we do anything. And if you want to learn more about poker like that, head on over to upswingpoker.com. I want to let everyone know about Upswing Poker's new course, Smash Live Cash. Smash Live Cash has over 4,800 pre-flop ranges. Wait, is that right? I'm being told that's right. The course focuses in on live cash game poker taught to you by Nick Petrangelo, one of the absolute best players in the entire world, with over 25 hours of course content. And Brad Owen joins the course and gets some coaching from Nick that you will get to see right there at home. Also, if you purchase this $1,000 course by Friday the 21st, you will also receive a $399 free course, Deep Stack Domination. an additional 4 to 5 hours of content to you for free if you buy by Friday. If you're interested in learning more about Upswing Poker's new course, Smash Live Cash, click the link in the description below. All right, back to business. Alrighty, so I call. To my left, Boston Jimmy decides to call, and at this point, he lets Skull Mike behind him sweat. I wish I remembered his exact comment, but he made some comment pre-flop that was like, let's get him, or we're going to win a big one here, or something like that. Can't remember exactly. I wish I did. Maybe Skull remembers it at this point. Anyway, he calls, the button calls, and everyone else gets out of the way, and we're taking a flop. The flop becomes Jack of Hearts, 10 of Hearts, 10 of Clubs, and that's right, guys. We flopped top boat. Please, somebody have a 10. Please. Please. The pre-flop raiser checks, and once again, we're in a spot where we can decide to bet or we can decide to check. The pot's $2,500. So if I want to bet here, I'm probably going to want to bet something like between 1/3 and half pot. However, I do think in some of these situations, it's nice to trap because if someone has a 10, they're probably going to start betting anyway, so we're going to have a good chance to raise them. And also, you allow your opponents a chance to catch up, which in retrospect seems foolish. Anyway, I decided to check this time around, and everyone checks behind, and let's take a turn. The turn comes the deuce of diamonds, and at this point, it's time to start building a pot. We can't wait forever, guys. Pre-flop raiser checks once again. I would say every now and then you should trap it, but typically when you have good hands, you want to be betting and raising. So we bet $1,500 into $2,500 for a 60% pot bet. Jimmy goes ahead and makes the call. The button folds, the pre-flop raiser folds, and we're taking a river. The river comes the deuce of clubs, so this is a pretty nice card. If someone has a 10, they now chop with strong 10, so they're going to feel very good about their hand. You're not losing to very many combinations of hands at all. The question is, do I go for the bet or do I go for the check raise? Typically, once you start betting, you want to keep betting, trying to build that pot. The pot is roughly $5,500, so we decided to go for about a 60-ish% pot bet. Again, $3,500 into $5,500. We bet. Boston Jimmy thinks about his options for a little bit, and he decides to bump it up to $21,000. Now, most people in this pot would be salivating at the thought of raising again, or maybe just calling, but knowing they're going to win all the money. But I'm known for my big folds, guys. You've seen it before. When I played Phil Hellmuth, what did I do? When I played versus E and got set over set in the first month of the lodge, what did I do? Sometimes you got to think, what is my opponent representing exactly? And this might seem like a standard spot to put your money in, but I want you to watch the footage and watch how close I am to just letting it go. That was at least 1.5, 2 seconds, at least. You know, if I had a third second, I might have been able to find a fold. What happens now is the best part of the clip. Just watch the reactions from people as this hand goes down. You know who's seen a lot of poker just in general? Dealers. This was the dealer's reaction when we showed our cards. This. Some truly phenomenal reactions to this at the table when it happened. Starting with my reaction, I really like this. The call, look over, eyebrow raise, then show my hand, and then the head shaking as you pay out your money. Got to get your picks. We got some other players in shock. Dylan also the hand over mouth gasp. Mr. Dr. Batman in C8 with the wow as he eats some food. Jorge even takes a little break from his call. That's a bad beat, guys. And here we are complaining about it. So yeah, that's basically where we're at these days. For me, I make videos about bad beats that I took at my card room. Pretty fascinating stuff. If you want to see more of this type of content, head on over to Poker at the Lodge on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. I'll put a little link in the description below. But anyway, cliff notes, a bad beat happened in poker. Impressive stuff.
嘿哈，大家好，我是小六。那上一影片我提到，我去年秋天来到美国拉斯维加斯参加第52届 WSOP 世界扑克大赛的赛事37 Super Turbo KO 高速猎人头赏金赛。那这场$1500买入的比赛，除了是20分钟身盲的高速赛之外，更特别的则是它$1500里面有$500是属于猎人头的赏金。意思就是你每淘汰1位玩家就能获得$500的奖金那这个游戏设计也让这场锦标赛跟一般的锦标赛有一点不同因为你就得把人头赏金的 EV 加到你做决策的考量当中，而不再只是单纯的赔率和胜率等考量 那整体的策略到底有什么不一样，以及上一集又有什么精彩的火花呢？如果有还没有看过前面精彩片段的朋友，可以先点选右上角的资讯卡连结观看上集的影片哦。好，那看过的朋友，我也先来简单的前情提要一下。这场25000起始筹码的比赛，我一开始很顺利的列到了4颗人头，所以总共已经先获得了$2000的赏金了。但中间一把 A 系同花中了顶对顶角，盖给对手超对，接着又一把关键猎头机会的 A10跑出手牌胜率压制的 A9，变成短码之后，还好后来一手 AJ 对上 Q7成功翻倍，再用一手4-4抓炸虎成功后，
我刚刚开麦，我重新开过，它点击不了。哦 ，OK， 开始喽。哦，这个是换，好的。帮它调，不是。Hello， 听到了吗？
让我的筹码回到了接近13万，略高于均码。那这场比赛我后面到底有办法继续列到更多的人头赏金，以及挺进前圈深跑下去呢？就让我们回到盲注级别，小盲大盲2500、5000，大盲成绩5000吧。那影片开始之前呢，如果喜欢扑克或是对我频道有兴趣的朋友，别忘了订阅我的频道，并顺手打开铃铛，这样就不会漏掉我第一时间上片的消息了。除此之外，也欢迎大家追踪我的 IG 跟我的 FB 粉专，我会在上面分享我的生活与扑克资讯。最后，如果想要支持我的朋友，可以透过右下方的超级感谢，或者是订阅键旁边的加入按钮，加入我的频道会员。频道会员除了每月专属的影片之外，等这一下。
听到声音了吗 ？Hello， 哦，听到了，已经 OK 了。稍等一下哦，这个是显示英文的，那是不是要说看英文，还是只是需要说华语？但是，他好像听不懂华语，说华语，说着华语，但他好像是用大概是华语的音，然后转去英文再翻译。Hello, can hear it？ 英文就说得很对，然后华语不行，英文就 OK。英文是听得懂的，但是华语它翻译不过来，华语翻译得很不正确。华语我说的翻译，他给我翻译，他是大概用华语的音去换的吧。用个华语的。 切换条语音识别。语音识别不是吗？我调了语音识别了，已经是语音识别了。哦，难怪，懂了。诶，调不了，稍等。马来西亚，被我盖掉了。我要调去英语吗？就是切换传选。中文去英语对吧？啊，对了，中文去英语的已经正确了，是 OK 的，它可以识别到。Hello， 有听到吗？好像不太对。那它英语也可以说吗 ？Hello, can you hear it？ 好像不太对。应该是 OK 的。它有出现一些英文字。我拉长看。大概是这样。要一直说，我找个稿，来说，就一直说那个华语咯。华语稿。八度空间华语新闻是马来西亚首要媒体有限公司为八度空间电视台和8FM 广播电视制作的新闻节目。新闻节目使用华语制作，播映时段被固定为3段，分别为每星期1至5早上9点30分至，然后加一点英文。OK， 那我就八度空间午间新闻。那我换一换。那我这样先说华语吧。八度空间华语新闻是马来西亚首要媒体有限公司为八度空间电视台和8FM 广播电视制作的新闻节目。新闻节目使用华语制作，播放时段为 As you looking for the time, as you slowly open your eyes, looking around, notice where the light comes into your room. Listen carefully, see if there are new sounds you can recognize feel with your body and spirit, and see if you can sense the freshness in the air. 每天中午12点30分至下午1点播出八度空间午间新闻和每天晚上8点至9点播出的八度空间华语新闻。它是可以切换到有没有英文和华语一起的。好，这里停止。是可以保卫离桌还是 can